The year is 2242. Our home, Earth, once a vibrant jewel of blue and green, is now gasping for breath. Its skies, once clear and inviting, are choked with a persistent, sickly haze. The great forests, the lungs of our planet, have withered to dust bowls, their verdant life a fading memory whispered in history lessons. Oceans, the cradle of life, now struggle against the encroaching pollution, their currents sluggish and their depths eerily quiet. Humanity, once a species of boundless optimism, now huddles in sprawling, domed cities, gazing out at a world that can no longer sustain them in the way it once did. It's a somber picture, a stark reminder of the delicate balance we so carelessly disrupted. The very air crackles with a quiet desperation. Resources are dwindling at an alarming rate, and the vibrant ecosystems that once defined our world are collapsing one by one. The sun, our life-giving star, seems to shine down with a mournful light upon a planet groaning under the weight of its inhabitants' past mistakes. Scientists, philosophers and leaders alike search for answers, for a glimmer of hope in the encroaching darkness. The challenge is immense, perhaps the greatest our species has ever faced, to find a new path forward or to fade away with our dying world. The weight of this future rests heavily on the shoulders of every living soul. Amidst this planetary crisis, a young mind burns with an intensity that belies his years. Kai Tenma, barely 18, possesses an intellect that dances with the complexities of the cosmos. He is a physicist, but more than that, he is a dreamer, a visionary who refuses to accept the grim prognosis for humanity. While others see only despair, Kai pores over ancient theories and forgotten research, his mind a whirlwind of equations and possibilities. He believes with every fibre of his being that the universe holds secrets that could unlock our salvation, if only we are brave enough and clever enough to find them. His small room is a sanctuary of hope, filled with star charts and complex diagrams. Kai isn't just searching for a quick fix. He's looking for a fundamental shift, a way to transcend the limitations that have brought Earth to its knees. He spends his nights gazing at the distant stars, those pinpricks of light in the vast cosmic ocean, and wonders if our destiny lies out there among them. His quest is not just for survival, but for a renewed sense of purpose for humankind. He carries the unspoken hopes of billions, a silent pressure that fuels his relentless pursuit. The fate of our species, teetering on the brink, might just depend on the spark of genius flickering within this determined young physicist. In the dusty archives of a forgotten research institute, buried beneath layers of neglected data, Kai Tenma uncovers a project of almost mythical status. It is a theoretical endeavour, abandoned decades ago, deemed too ambitious, too radical: the Einstein Continuum drive. Its conceptual framework is breathtaking, proposing a method of traversing interstellar distances not by plodding through space, but by bending the very fabric of space-time itself. The documents are yellowed with age, the ink faded, but the ideas they contain shine with an undiminished brilliance, a testament to a visionary mind that dared to dream beyond the known. The architect of this audacious concept was Dr. Cora Einstein, a name that resonates with a complex legacy, a descendant of the famed Albert Einstein. She was a reclusive genius whose work pushed the boundaries of known physics. Her theories suggested that by harnessing the immense gravitational forces of micro-black holes, one could potentially create and stabilize wormholes, theoretical tunnels through space-time. These cosmic shortcuts could, in principle, connect distant points in the universe, making interstellar travel not a matter of centuries but of moments. It was a concept so profound, so revolutionary, that it was met with both awe and deep skepticism by her contemporaries. Cora Einstein's research was meticulous, her calculations precise, yet the final sections of her notes were filled with cryptic annotations and hurried scrawls. It was as if she was on the verge of a monumental breakthrough, racing against an unseen clock. The core of the drive relied on a delicate dance between creating and controlling miniature singularities, a feat that required an understanding of gravity and quantum mechanics far beyond what was mainstream at the time. Kai felt a thrill course through him. This wasn't just a theory, it felt like a map, a hidden pathway to humanity's future, left behind by a brilliant forerunner. The most tantalizing and unsettling part of Cora's research detailed her final experiment. She hypothesized that if a wormhole could be formed, its exit point might not always be predictable, potentially even leading to an exotic phenomenon known as a white hole. The theoretical opposite of a black hole, a point from which matter and light erupt. Then, Cora Einstein vanished. No trace of her or her experimental apparatus was ever found. She had, it seemed, stepped into her own creation. A pioneer lost to the very frontier she sought to open for the rest of us. Her disappearance became a warning, a mystery, and now for Kai, an irresistible challenge. Cora Einstein's disappearance was more than just a scientific mystery. It became a legend, whispered in the halls of physics departments worldwide. The common theory was that she had stepped into her own experimental Einstein Continuum drive, but where did she go? Her final, fragmented notes hinted at the possibility of emerging through a white hole. Now, what exactly is a white hole? Imagine a black hole, that cosmic abyss from which nothing, not even light, can escape. A white hole is its theoretical mirror image, a region of space-time from which matter and light can only exit, never enter. It's a fascinating yet purely hypothetical concept born from the equations of general relativity. The mathematics describing black holes allows for the possibility of their temporal reverse, which is what we call a white hole. While we have abundant observational evidence for black holes, from the stellar mass varieties to the supermassive giants at the centers of galaxies, white holes remain elusive phantoms. No astronomer has ever definitively observed one. They are, for now, creatures of theory, mathematical possibilities that fire the imagination. Could Cora have truly encountered one? Or was it something else entirely? Some unforeseen consequence of manipulating space-time on such a fundamental level? The questions swirled around Kai as he delved deeper into her work. The implications of Cora emerging from a white hole were staggering. If she did, where would it have deposited her? Another region of our universe? Another time? Or perhaps, as some of the more speculative theories suggested, another universe altogether? The concept of a white hole as an exit point for a wormhole, or as a consequence of a journey through a singularity, added another layer of complexity and danger to the Einstein Continuum drive. It wasn't just about getting somewhere, it was about understanding the nature of the destination and the journey itself, which might fundamentally alter the traveler. For Kai, Cora Einstein was not just a historical figure. She became a silent mentor, a ghost guiding him through the labyrinth of her research. He felt a kinship with her audacious spirit, her willingness to chase the universe's most profound secrets, regardless of the personal cost. Her disappearance served as a stark warning about the untamed power they were attempting to harness, but it also ignited a deeper resolve in Kai. If Cora had glimpsed something beyond our understanding, something that lay on the other side of a white hole, then Kai felt an irresistible pull to follow, not just for humanity's survival, but for the pursuit of knowledge itself. At the heart of Cora Einstein's audacious design, and therefore Kai's desperate hope, lay the mastery of truly cosmic phenomena, black holes and wormholes. Let's start with black holes. These are not empty holes in space, but rather unimaginable amounts of matter crushed into an infinitesimally small space, a singularity. Their gravitational pull is so immense that once you cross a certain boundary, the event horizon, there's no turning back. Not even light, the fastest thing in the universe, can escape. They are the ultimate cosmic vacuum cleaners, shaping galaxies and dictating the fate of stars. The Einstein Continuum drive, however, didn't propose diving into a supermassive black hole. Instead, it theorized the creation and manipulation of micro-black holes, fleeting, minuscule entities that might evaporate almost as soon as they form through a process known as Hawking radiation. Controlling such an entity, stabilizing it even for a fraction of a second to exploit its space-time warping properties, was a challenge of godlike proportions. Yet Cora's equations suggested it was possible, a delicate balancing act on the very edge of physical law. These tiny controlled singularities would be the keys to tearing open the fabric of space-time. And what would they tear open? Ideally, a wormhole. Often called an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole is a theoretical passage through space-time that could create shortcuts for long journeys across the universe. Imagine space-time as a giant sheet of paper. To get from one point to another, you could travel across the surface. But what if you could fold that paper, bringing the 2 points close together, and then punch a hole through them? That tunnel, that shortcut, is the essence of a wormhole. It connects two disparate points, potentially separated by unimaginable distances, or even, some theories suggest, different times or universes. For Kai and the future project Eventide, these weren't just abstract concepts from a textbook. Black holes would be their engines, their tools for bending reality. Wormholes would be their highways, their escape routes from a dying Earth. But navigating these cosmic structures would be fraught with peril. The tidal forces near a black hole could stretch an object into spaghetti. The stability of a wormhole, if one could even be created, was far from guaranteed. It might collapse or lead to somewhere entirely unexpected, or unleash energies beyond comprehension. This was the gamble to ride the dragon of gravity itself in search of a new home. Section 5, The Relativistic Odyssey, Project Eventide's Temporal Voyage. With Cora Einstein's rediscovered research providing a theoretical blueprint, a clandestine international effort coalesced, codenamed Project Eventide. Its mission was monumental: to build and test the Einstein Continuum drive, and, if successful, to scout for a new habitable world for humanity. Kai Tenma, with his intimate understanding of Cora's work, quickly became an indispensable, albeit young, member of this elite team. They were a collection of the brightest minds, engineers, pilots and astrophysicists, all driven by the same desperate hope and the thrill of venturing into the ultimate unknown, the fabric of space-time itself. The day the Eventide starship, powered by its nascent Continuum drive, made its first tentative jump was a day etched forever in the annals of human history, though known only to a select few. As the drive engaged, creating its controlled micro-singularities and attempting to forge a stable wormhole, the universe outside the ship's viewports didn't just blur. It twisted, contorted, and folded in on itself in ways that defied conventional perception. Colours unseen by human eyes, geometries that broke the rules of Euclid. It was a glimpse into the raw, untamed mechanics of reality, a profound and unsettling experience for all aboard. One of the most immediate and mind-bending consequences of their journey was the phenomenon of time dilation, a cornerstone of Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. As the Eventide approached the immense gravitational fields required to manipulate space-time, or as it theoretically travelled at speeds approaching that of light within the compressed space of a wormhole, time for those aboard began to flow at a different rate compared to time back on Earth. Days for the crew could mean years, even decades, passing for everyone they had left behind. This wasn't science fiction. It was a fundamental consequence of the universe's operating system. This temporal discrepancy cast a long shadow over the mission. Each jump, each exploration into the cosmic unknown, widened the temporal gulf between the crew and their home world. They were racing against the clock to save humanity, yet their own clocks ticked at a vastly different pace. The team, young and full of hope at the outset, would experience the universe's wonders, but also its indifference to human scales of time. Their journey was not just through space, but through time itself, and the price of that journey would be measured in moments lost forever with those they were trying to save. Section 6. Whispers from Other Realities, the Fabric of the Multiverse. As Project Eventide pushed the Einstein Continuum drive to its limits, navigating the treacherous currents of space-time, they encountered phenomena that even Cora Einstein's theories had only hinted at. The wormholes they generated were not always stable, predictable pathways. Sometimes the exit points seemed to shimmer with an unfamiliar light, offering glimpses into realities that were subtly or drastically different from their own. The concept of the multiverse, once a fringe idea in theoretical physics, began to feel terrifyingly real. Were they merely travelling between points in their own universe, or were they brushing against the membranes of other parallel existences? The idea of a multiverse suggests that our universe is not unique. Instead, it might be just one bubble in a vast cosmic foam of countless other universes, each potentially with its own unique physical laws, its own history, its own versions of reality. Perhaps some of these universes were only slightly different, a world where a key historical event had a different outcome. Others might be wildly alien, governed by forces and dimensions beyond our comprehension. The Eventide's instruments registered fleeting, anomalous energy signatures, and crew members reported disorienting sensory experiences near particularly unstable wormhole exits, fueling speculation that they were peering into these cosmic neighbors. These encounters with what seemed to be alternate realities were both tantalizing and deeply unsettling. Could one of these other Earths, untouched by the blight afflicting their own, be a potential refuge? But the ethical and practical implications were staggering. How could they interact with, or even comprehend, a reality that had diverged from their own? The risk of unforeseen consequences, of damaging another timeline or universe, was immense. The prime directive of Project Eventide was to find a new home for their humanity, not to interfere with the destinies of others, if such others even existed in a tangible way. For Kai, these glimpses into the multiverse added another layer of complexity to his already burdened mind. The sheer scale of existence, the possibility of infinite variations, was both humbling and overwhelming. It made Earth's plight seem simultaneously insignificant in the grand cosmic scheme, and yet all the more precious because it was their unique home, their specific reality, that was in peril. The search for a new world was no longer just about finding a habitable planet. It was about navigating a potentially infinite ocean of possibilities, each with its own potential wonders and horrors, and trying to find a safe harbor for their own thread of existence. Section 7. The stretching of time bonds tested across an expanding void. The most insidious and heartbreaking challenge faced by Kai and the crew of the Eventide was not the cosmic monsters like black holes or the disorienting whispers of alternate realities, but the relentless, unyielding march of time dilation. Each journey through a wormhole, each period spent near the intense gravitational fields required by the Continuum drive, meant that time aboard the ship passed far more slowly than it did for those left behind on Earth. A mission that felt like weeks or months to the crew could equate to years or even decades for their families, their friends, and the dying world they were fighting to save. Kai had left behind a younger sister, Ilara, and his closest friends, all full of youthful hope when he departed. He carried their holographic messages, their laughter echoing in the sterile confines of the starship. But with each communication uplink, the lag increased, and the faces on the screen aged. His friend's youthful exuberance gave way to the concerns of adulthood, then the weariness of middle age. Ilara, once a child looking up to her older brother, became a woman, then a mother, her life unfolding in a torrent of time that Kai could only witness in brief, painful snapshots. The guilt and sorrow were a constant, gnawing presence. The crew of Project Eventide became a family adrift in time, their shared experience of temporal displacement forging unbreakable bonds, but also highlighting their profound isolation. They aged slowly, almost imperceptibly to each other, while their entire world, their entire species, rushed towards its potential end at a pace they couldn't match. Love and logic waged a constant war within Kai. His love for those on Earth fueled his desperate search, yet the logic of physics dictated that he was becoming increasingly disconnected from them, a ghost from their past, or they, figures from his rapidly receding future. This stretching of time warped not just their relationships, but their very perception of the mission. What did it mean to save a world that would be generations removed from the one they remembered? Who were they saving, if not the people they knew and loved? The philosophical weight of their journey grew with every passing parsec, every dilated year. The success of their mission might mean finding a new home for humanity, but for the crew of the Eventide, it might also mean returning to a future where they were relics, strangers to the descendants of those they had sworn to protect. The universe, in its grand indifference, exacted a heavy price for attempting to master its secrets. Section 8. The Fulcrum of Choice, Kai's Solitary Burden. As Project Eventide ventured deeper into the cosmos, locating several potentially habitable worlds, the true weight of leadership and decision-making began to settle squarely on Kai Tenma's young shoulders. He was no longer just the brilliant physicist who had unearthed Cora Einstein's work. He was now a key figure in determining humanity's future trajectory. Each candidate planet came with its own set of promises and perils. Some teemed with alien life, raising ethical dilemmas. Others were geologically unstable. A few were idyllic but incredibly distant, requiring even more extreme uses of the Continuum drive and thus more severe time dilation. The choices were never simple, never black and white. The data streams, the scientific analyses, the probabilities, they all provided information, but they couldn't provide the wisdom needed to make such a monumental decision. Kai found himself wrestling with existential questions. What constitutes an acceptable risk? What sacrifices are justifiable for the survival of the species? Is mere survival enough, or should they strive for a world that offered more than just a refuge, a chance for humanity to truly flourish, to learn from its past mistakes? These weren't equations he could solve. They were matters of heart, of conscience, of a deeply human and often fallible judgment. His internal struggle was intensified by the diverse opinions and growing anxieties among the crew. Some advocated for the safest, quickest option, desperate to transmit a message of hope back to Earth before it was too late, regardless of the long-term suitability of the chosen world. Others argued for a more patient, thorough search, even if it meant further temporal displacement, believing that the future of countless generations depended on finding the right new home. Kai listened to them all, his mind a battleground of logic, emotion, and the crushing responsibility of their mission's success or failure resting heavily upon his choices. The ghost of Cora Einstein also loomed large in his thoughts. Had she faced similar dilemmas before her disappearance? What choices had led her into the unknown? Kai often revisited her notes, searching not just for scientific insights, but for some trace of her ethical framework, some clue to how she navigated the profound implications of her own discoveries. He realized that the Einstein Continuum drive was more than just a machine. It was a moral crucible, forcing those who wielded its power to confront the deepest questions about what it means to be human and what future humanity deserved. The path forward was shrouded in uncertainty, and Kai felt profoundly alone at this cosmic crossroads. Section 9. Echoes of Singularity, a new genesis or an eternal return. The culmination of Project Eventide's arduous journey brought them to a planet they named Viridia, a world teeming with life orbiting a stable sun-like star. It was a paradise far exceeding their most optimistic projections. Yet the final choice to designate Viridia as humanity's new home was fraught with tension. The time dilation had been immense. Centuries had passed on Earth. They were transmitting data and the means to replicate the Continuum drive back to a civilization that would barely remember them, a civilization of distant descendants. Their mission was a success, but it was a bittersweet triumph, a salvation delivered by ghosts from the past. Kai, having made the agonizing decision to transmit Viridia's coordinates and the drive schematics, faced one last personal choice. The Eventide had enough resources for a return journey or to explore further, perhaps even to try and understand the true fate of Cora Einstein, whose work had made all this possible. Some of the crew, weary and longing for a connection however tenuous to their lineage, opted to oversee the initial automated seeding processes on Viridia from orbit, hoping to one day be joined by future generations from Earth. Others felt the pull of the unknown, the call of the cosmos that had become their life. Kai found himself drawn to a peculiar anomaly detected near Viridia, a stable, unusually calm distortion in space-time, almost like a scar left by an ancient colossal event. It resonated with some of Cora's most cryptic notes about balanced states and symmetrical exits. Was this a clue to her whereabouts, or perhaps a natural, stable wormhole, a gateway unlike any they had encountered? The allure of the unknown, the chance to solve the final piece of the puzzle that Cora had left behind, was a powerful siren song for a mind like Kai's, a mind that had already touched the fabric of reality. Ultimately, Kai, with a small, dedicated contingent, chose to investigate the anomaly, leaving the majority to establish the first beacon of hope on Viridia. His journey had been about saving humanity, but it had also been about understanding the universe. Perhaps, he mused, the two were inextricably linked. The Singularity Echo, the reverberations of their journey through space-time, had led to a new genesis for humankind. But for Kai, it also hinted at an eternal return, a continuous quest for knowledge, a dance with the infinite possibilities that the cosmos, in its awesome majesty, forever offers to those brave enough to look. The universe had changed them, and in turn they had found humanity a new place within it.